The next step is to begin modeling something fairly simple, a pirate hat, which we will then be displaying in XNA just to kind of make sure that everything works. So what you're looking at is a perspective view of nothing, basically, in the XSI 6 mod tool. I'll be going slowly enough so that you know what I'm doing exactly, what keys to press, and so forth. So hopefully it'll be fairly easy to follow along. First thing to do is ensure that we are connected to a Game Studio project. Go to XNA Game Studio, connect to XNA project, and you'll notice already it says a valid XSI project has been detected. This project will be set as the active project. Press OK. Now we want to create a new XNA Game Studio model. The reason we do this rather than immediately begin creating primitive shapes is that when you create a model, you push 8 to open up the Mod Explorer and expand model, which was just created. You'll notice there's an XNA asset property here. This is so that XNA knows how to export it. This mesh object is the default cube that was just created as part of our model. So we'll delete that cube, right-click on model to rename it, and we'll call it Pirate Hat. Now, we know we want to model a pirate hat, but we don't really know what one looks like. So we can do some research on the internet. If you look for pirate hat images, you can find one that looks kind of like that. So it looks sort of like a plane that was folded in different directions. This one also is a good example. So what we're going to be doing is going for something that looks kind of like that. So we go back into our XSI mod tool. We'll go to Create Objects. This brings up our Primitive Shapes toolbar. Click Cylinder. And for radius, type in 4. For height, type in 1. For U subdivisions, type in 12. For V, change it to 1. And for base, change it to 4. Now this button in the top right of the view, when clicked, will show you all 4 other views. So this is the top view here, looking top down. This is the front view, and this is the right view. These are all useful throughout the modeling process, and it's really up to you to learn how to use each of these views. So now we want to take a closer look at the cylinder we just created in this perspective view. Click on the full screen button again to make it full screen. To look around our model, to navigate in 3D space, we press the S key. This icon pops up, and there are 3 different things you can do while using the S key. If you hold down the right mouse button and drag around, it'll rotate around whatever's currently selected. If you hold down the left mouse button and you drag, this is just it's like a translation view. And then if you hold down the middle mouse and drag and move your mouse, it'll scale in and out. To reset any camera view, press the R button. Or to focus on any particular object within your scene, push F to frame the object. So we'll just reset it, go back to our 4 view, and now we're going to look at the view from the front. So let's push the full screen button. Now we want to do some scaling and manipulation. Look at your keyboard and notice that you have X, C, and V keys next to each other. The X key, when pressed, brings up the scale tool. As you would suspect, this scales the object in whatever direction you drag it. If you hold the Shift key while doing it, it scales the entire object, not just the axis that you choose. So let's scale it down just a little bit. This is going to be a fairly flat hat. Now let's go back into full screen mode. Let's push S to zoom in by holding the middle mouse key into our perspective view. And now let's go up here to the model menu, which you may not have. You need to right click and choose Module Menus to make that bring up in Mod Tool. So click Model, go to Modify, Deform, Fold. This is what's going to give our hat the foldy effect. Under Angle, drag Angle up just a little bit. Push X to scale up to get a more realistic looking pirate hat. And you notice, without hardly doing any work, we've got something that looks kind of like a pirate hat. Now you can change this distortion value as well to give it more of a foldy look, or to make it bow out just a little bit. So we're going to fold it in just a bit and see how that looks. Okay, great. Just fold that a little bit more. And you notice we've got something that looks like a pirate hat. We can push X to scale it and just change it a little bit. Now, the only thing that's missing from this pirate hat is a little half sphere in the middle. So we will go to Objects. It brings up our primitive toolbox. Click Sphere. And we really don't need to set these properties because we can scale it to however we see fit. But first of all, we need to trim off the bottom half of this sphere. So go to Rectangle Select, Point, and go into one of the side views and drag across the lower half of the points. And press Delete. This will give us a little half sphere. Now press V to grab your selection tool. Press X in the top view. Scale down this half of a pirate hat and scale it to kind of fit out the inside of the hat so it looks sort of right. In the right view over here, we'll notice that it's not quite lined up, so we can just kind of put it there. So now we have the head part of the pirate hat, which we can also scale up a little bit in the top view just to make it more obvious. So there's our first crack at a little pirate hat. Fairly simple modeling techniques. Now it's a good idea to save very frequently. Notice we still have Scene Untitled. So let's go to File, Save. We should already be in the XSI content directory under Scenes. So under file name, we can type in piratehat.exp. So to deselect what you're looking at and get a better look at it, you can open up the Mod Explorer by pushing 8 and clicking Scene Root. So nothing will be selected. And we can get a better look at our pirate hat. And this is just very generic, basic shading, nothing special. So we need to add a texture to it to make it look a little bit more realistic. Now, before we do that though, let's go ahead and export our model to XNA with no materials, no textures, just to make sure that it works. To do this, we need to select our geometry, just as you would Windows files, by clicking and pushing Shift and so forth, and drag it by left-clicking and dragging under Pirate Hat. Now let's diagnose this model for XNA development to make sure that it's okay. Go to the XNA Game Studio menu and choose Diagnose Models. The default values are okay because we don't have any skinning happening in our model, so click OK to run the diagnostics. Now we'll see here that it says Material Scene Material used by Sphere and Cylinder don't use an FX file, and that they will be replaced by a default material. That's okay for now because we just want to see that our pirate hat actually loads in XNA. Later though, we're going to be replacing these materials with our own materials and textures. So everything looks good, and one of the easiest ways to export using this tool is to go to Crosswalk, choose Export FBX, and if you haven't already, it's a very good idea to set up your project directory as a favorite directory. I'll show you how to do that now, so it'll save you a lot of time in the future. Type in the path to your Visual Studio 2005 projects, navigate into your project, which is Guitar MIDI PC, and click this button up here, which says Favorites, and click Add to Favorites. From now on, it'll just show up in this list down here, and you'll be able to pick it. We want to export our model into Content, Models. We'll call it Pirate Hat, no texture, and click OK. These options are all fine. Click OK, and the export will happen. Now, when we look back over at our Guitar MIDI PC project, under our Models folder, if we click Refresh, we'll see now that we have an FBX file. So, the next step is to display this model in code.